Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order this Monday study session of the Pierce County Council. It is Monday, July 31st, 2023. The time is approximately 11:02 a.m. All members are present except for Council Members Herrera and Hitchin, who are excused. Item number 2 is review of the August 1st, 2023, tomorrow's council meeting agenda. Ms. Long.
All right, thank you and good morning. This is tomorrow's regular council meeting agenda. It is amended. We'll start with your consent agenda on page 2. So you have a few items here for introductions, scheduling for ordinances. You have 2023-29. This is amending chapter 4.48 of the code entitled County Funds. This is for referral to rules, and you'll be setting the final on that for August 22nd. 2023-30 is the next one, and that is adopting the 2023 update to the Sustainability 2030 Pierce County's greenhouse gas reduction plan. And this is for referral to CDC, and you'll be setting the final on that for August 29th. The next is 2023-31. This is authorizing the approval of applications for open space classification. This is for parcels located in unincorporated Pierce County. This is within, and the application numbers are listed there for you. You'll be setting the final on this for August 22nd. And I'll just note on these, lately we have not been sending these open space to committee in case you're wondering why there was not a referral there. So moving to subsection D, you have 3 grants, and Mr. Boki will speak about those shortly. And then moving to proclamations under section 7, you have 1, and that is the proclaiming the week of August 6th through the 12th as Farmers Market Week in Pierce County. And you have no ordinances or resolutions on tomorrow's agenda. So those are your items for tomorrow's meeting.
Thank you. Are there any questions about tomorrow's council meeting agenda? We'll get to the grant reports here very shortly. Vice Chair Kimball.
Farmers Market reading.
Councilmember Denson is reading our Farmers Market Week proclamation.
Choice.
Unless you'd like to.
Okay.
You sure?
Okay. I've done it in the past, so go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. I'm excited.
Any other questions about tomorrow's council meeting agenda? Not seeing any. We do have 3 grant reports on the scheduled agenda. Mr. Boki.
Thank you very much, Chair Mello. The first grant report is it's from the Planning and Public Works Department. It is 122nd Avenue East, 146th Street Court East to 136th Street East. It's on the east side of the South Hill. I believe we've actually had other grant requests for this corridor. This is a Washington State Transportation Improvement Board Urban Arterial Program. The amount of the request for the grant is $5,550,000. The match required would be $18,574,342. It is included in the capital facilities plan via the 2023-2028 Transportation Improvement Plan. And the project is currently shown as fully funded, and I believe that document is also in there. So if this grant request would lower the local funds used on this project if we are successful in getting it. And Mr. Clint Ritter from our Planning and Public Works Department is on the line. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. Mr. Ritter, thank you for being with us. Great that we're being aggressive here and looking for funding for already programmed and prioritized projects. As I look at the adopted transportation improvement program and sort of the timeline of this grant, if we were successful, would this be used for the construction phase of the grant, of the implementation of this project?
Yeah. Good morning. Chair Mello, members of the committee, Clint Ritter, Planning Public Works. Good question. This would actually be utilized for both the right-of-way phase and the construction phase. Likely the majority of it would be reserved for the construction phase. There you can see the project on the screen in the currently adopted TIP. It is scheduled for construction in 2025. And so the idea would be submitting this grant application. We would have an agreement in place if successful by the end of this year. And we still have some remaining right-of-way acquisition cost in 2024 that we could utilize some of this grant funding for. And then, as I said, the remainder for construction.
Thank you. My other question, as we look at the project purpose, it's for widen roadway to increase capacity, curb gutter sidewalks, enclosed storm drainage, illumination, and replace traffic signal. My question's about the widening the roadway to increase capacity. What features are we putting into the design of this to make sure that as we increase capacity and widen, we're not just creating more speed that is going to make it more dangerous?
Yeah, good question. So the increased widening on this particular project includes one additional travel lane in the northbound direction and a two-way center left turn lane to allow a lot of those turning movements, which currently can't happen and pose safety concerns because of the heavy volumes, as well as the fact that it's only a two-lane existing roadway right now. Along with that, we will have a widened paved shoulder that will be able to facilitate bike movements. And with the curb and gutter, that arrangement helps to assist with reduced speeds as opposed to what you have right now. Widened shoulders, it has the appearance of a corridor that people like to drive fast on. So I think this project serves all those purposes very well.
Thank you for explaining that. Vice Chair Campbell.
Just want to drill down a little bit on something you said there, the addition of a paved shoulder for bicycles. But it's not being called a bicycle lane per se. Are we adding bicycle capacity to this corridor, or just they're kind of off to the side?
Yeah, so at this time, they are not marked designated bike lanes. They do provide a 5-foot width, which is common standard for a bike lane, but at this time they are not planned to be marked.
What is the speed? What is the posted speed limit on this road?
So posted speed limit's 35.
And do bicyclists have an alternative route other than this? Like a parallel residential road or anything like that?
Yeah, so in the active transportation plan and the designated county bike map, there are other roadways in this vicinity that are designated to serve bicycle travel. And so we would prefer to have those folks more on a local access, lower speed, lower volume roadway as opposed to this arterial corridor. However, with the widening and improvement project, we do like to provide the facility, like I said, not even though it's not marked, but provide that width and purpose of the roadway to serve all users.
So now so say I want to drill too deep, but just kind of philosophically moving forward, I think we'd be better served creating and I don't have the map before me, but like a widened all-purpose pedestrian bicycle lane that's separated away. Can appreciate saying, hey, at least their shoulders, now they're not in traffic, they're a little separated. Problem is all the gravel bits and trash get kicked into that area where the bicyclists are trying to ride. Often the tires will slip out and they have to avoid trash that's on the shoulder and go back into lanes of traffic to do it. Secondarily, we saw this on Pacific Avenue where when the state came through, they said, hey, look, we put bicycle lanes along Pacific Avenue. And then they came back and said, well, no one uses them. Well, of course not. I mean, you're asking them to be riding at bicycle speeds next to cars that are posted speed limit 35, often traveling 45, 50 miles an hour, and they're within 2 feet of them, 3 feet. You have to be pretty fearless to be riding in a situation like that. I appreciate the widening, so if a car does get disabled, has to pull over for whatever reasons, but is when we're thinking of bicycles on any road that's 35 or above, I think we have to find a way to do a multi-use path off to the side for pedestrians and bicycles to share. I think would be a preferred through a corridor. Not looking to hold this up, but just provide comment in context of probably safer ways going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Cooper?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Ritter, I'm wondering if with all of the focus on the active transportation, have we been tracking the increase in bike sales and use on the paths that we've been investing in? Have we been looking at that?
Boy, that is something I'm not sure on, honestly. I know we, as part of this project, have not been and do not have specific bicycle counts. I know that is something longer range that in the update to the active transportation plan, I know there was discussion happening on that, but I'm not aware of any data that exists, especially for this particular project and corridor.
Okay, because I'm wondering if it might not be prudent for us to do something. I think I was reading something in one of the foreign countries that the average bike ride was like 1.3 miles. So I'm just curious. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions. This will be on tomorrow's council meeting agenda for approval. Thank you for answering our questions on that one, Mr. Ritter. Again, a lot of the questions on the 122nd project is simply to make sure that we are being consistent with our Vision Zero planning. And as we develop these projects throughout the county, every part of the county is able to remain safe and provide the facilities for all users that we envision, no matter where you are in the county, as appropriate. It's different in the rural area than it is in the urban area, but this is a project in the urban area. So thank you for answering those questions. Next project, Mr. Boki.
Thank you very much, Chair Mello. The next is a Safe Routes to School project. It's Jim Heights Drive. And this was identified by the Puyallup School District in our Safe Routes to School plan as needing a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, or RRFB, at student crossings. The requested grant amount is $492,000. The match required would be $123,000. That will come out of the county road fund. It is listed as a project in the tip. So, and Mr. Ritter is here to answer your questions.
Thank you. Mr. Ritter, my question on this one, as I look at the duration of spending the grant, if we were so successful, it says the duration's 2 years, so through 2025. And then as I look at the tip on this, it goes through the 2028 time period. So if we were to get the grant, would it make sure that we would finish the project in the end of 2025?
Yes, great question, Chair Mello. So just to clarify, the document on the screen, the page out of the tip, is our Safe Routes to School program. And when we identify and are successful in getting funds, for example, on a particular project, that project would be pulled out independently, listed in the tip with the corresponding funding and timeline. So again, this is kind of our generic programmatic funding. If we were successful on this rapid rectangular flashing beacon, we would identify that as a separate project. And yes, it absolutely will be done in 2025. The plan would be to do design in 2024 and then construction in 2025.
That makes sense. Thank you for explaining that to us. Councilmember Denson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Ritter. The city of Gig Harbor, when I was with them, we did a lot of RFBs at the different crosswalks, very popular, very effective. I'm wondering, this is for 2 crosswalks. It seems like a lot of money. The figure I remember at Gig Harbor was like $50,000 per rectangular flashing beacon. And this is over what, 600,000 with the match? Can you just explain why these are so expensive? I mean, maybe the roads are a lot bigger than we were dealing with in Gig Harbor.
Yeah, great question. Thank you for that. So just to be clear, the Gem Heights location, there's actually there's two locations. The other one in the Franklin Pierce district, there's one. While the flashing beacon itself is not that expensive, we've programmed in funds to do the engineering, and we did evaluate whether county forces could do this work or whether we would have to put it out for public bid. We determined that we would have to put it out for public bidding, which introduces additional cost and things like that. Plus, in any grant funds, we like to include a small percentage of contingency. That's usually at the advice of the grantor. So we've included 10 to 15% contingency costs just to account for inflation and anything else that might come up in order to make sure that we're covered. And so it does seem a little bit pricier, but when you get down to breaking down the cost, engineering, et cetera, that's what we came up with. We're obviously hopeful it could come in less than that, which would be a win for us and the grantor if we're successful.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for answering those questions. Mr. Dominique, I wanted to make note that Councilmember Herrera is on as an attendee. If we could bump him to a panelist, please, so that in the event he has questions, he can fully participate. And for the record, Councilmember Herrera has been with us for some time. Councilmember Hitchin is still excused. Our third and final grant request, Mr. Boki.
Thank you, Chair Mello. This is also a Safe Routes to School grant. It's at the corner of Ainsworth South Avenue South and Garfield Street South. This is adjacent to the northwest corner of Washington High School. This location was identified by the Franklin Pierce School District in our Safe Routes to School plan as needing a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, RRFB, where students cross the road. The requested amount is $260,000 and the match required is $65,000.
Are there questions about this one? Not seeing any further questions. I think everything I learned about the previous one applies here as well. So I think I've gotten my questions answered. Thank you for pursuing these Safe Routes to School projects, especially. And all three of these will be on our council meeting agenda for approval tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. Ritter. Thank you, Mr. Boki. Item number 3 is review of committee agendas for the week. Ms. Long.
All right, thank you. So tomorrow's Health and Human Services Committee meeting has been canceled. So your first meeting tomorrow is the noon Tuesday study session. And I'm seeing the usual agenda there. I'm not aware of any additions at this time. And I'll just note, while not on your meeting schedule, the closed session scheduled to follow Tuesday study session has been canceled. So just want to make you aware of that. 3 p.m. is your regular council meeting. And we've talked about that agenda. On Wednesday, August 2nd, beginning at 10 a.m. is a committee of the whole. And you'll be discussing the American Rescue Plan expenditure and contracting update, and also a proviso update. Following that, you'll be discussing the Pierce County Community Grant and funding sources. And finally, a review of the 2024-2025 biennial budget calendar. So that's on Wednesday morning. And that is the meeting schedule for the remainder of this week.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there questions about the committee agenda for the week? I'm not seeing any. We're at item 4, discussion of administrative items. Ms. Murray, any administrative items this morning?
Thank you. I understand this is my portion of the agenda and appreciate any feedback you have on what I do today and in future meetings, but I'm still using my time to meet with all of you, meet with the staff, meet with department directors, and I've been spending quite a bit of time speaking with human resources to make sure that we're putting into place all the necessary actions following some of the actions you're doing here at the council, the reorganization, the resolution that was spoken to today, to just make sure that I'm doing what needs to be done so that we are doing what is required of our administrative guidelines and consistent with what goes on in the county. So for example, Councilmember Morale, you spoke of who's doing performance evaluations and trying to make sure what training do we have, and that the new persons who are put in positions of management are likewise getting that type of training and making sure that we are doing that on a consistent basis. So there's just still a lot of learning experience for myself. But specifically, we will be sending out an email today to staff talking about what has been called to me the blackout period, which where we ask staff to refrain from seeking leave while we're doing the council's budget activities. And so I believe that applies to our staff. You have your own staff for which you're supervising, but with that will be going out, and I will be working today on a letter that likewise goes to the executive that kind of speaks to what we kind of call the legislative blackout or delay, so that we have time reserved and they recognize that the council's time will be taking up on the budget and not necessarily on all legislation that has been forwarded to council. But there will obviously be opportunities that the council can decide what action they do want to take up on messages from the executive. So be working on that with Chair Mello and have that out there. And then just lastly, there was a request made by the Port of Tacoma to conduct a joint study session. They have an interest in environmental stewardship and their decarbonization efforts, and they would like to meet jointly here. And we asked that it be here at the council chambers so that you could talk about that and likewise speak to the actions that the county is taking. Kind of timely that you are looking at the 2030 sustainability plan, and that would be sort of a commensurate activity the county is doing to what the port wants to speak to you. So we're looking at dates in September. If people do have issues or topics that they would like me to talk to the port about in terms of like bringing up at that meeting, but they do and have gone to other jurisdictions, specifically talking about their environmental and decarbonization efforts, looking to you for areas of alignment and partnership. And so they just want to have that broad discussion. So I'll give you more details as that gets more final, but appreciate any input you might have on what you want to do in that session.
Thank you, Ms. Murray. Are there any questions for Ms. Murray for administrative items? Not seeing any. Thank you. We are at item 5, other business. Is there any other business by members before we enter into an executive session? Not seeing any. Ms. Long, any other business before we move into an executive session?
No, not today. Thank you.
Okay, and I'll note, Ms. Long, that we have Councilmember Herrera on the line, so need your help figuring out if there's a viable way, assuming he's participating in the executive, his schedule allows him to participate in the executive session. Is there a way to do that with him remotely and everyone else in this room, or is there no way to do that?
I'm going to throw my lifeline over to Brian, our communications. Typically, we're either all in person or all remote.
Yeah, so since we will keep the main meeting running, it'll be difficult to have a separate meeting connected to the room. Like, that's not possible. So probably the best bet is to go to your offices.
Sounds good, and we'll accommodate
You could get the bat phone. That might be an option.
to call in, to have Councilmember Herrera call in. Councilmember Herrera, would you be available to participate audially if we called you to participate in the executive
Yeah,
session?
absolutely. Yep, I can do that.
Thank you. We'll
Appreciate it.
coordinate that here. We'll find which phone number you're most easily at, Councilmember Herrera's, so you can fully participate. Ms. Long, could you brief on the purpose of the executive session?
Yes, thank you. So, excuse me, this is an executive session authorized by RCW 4230-110-1I. The purpose is to discuss with legal counsel matters of pending or potential litigation to which the county is or may become a party, and to which public knowledge of the discussion is likely to result in an adverse legal or financial consequence to the county. And as we usually do, Mr. Chair, before you go into executive session, if you'd state the time at which you will return to an open session, just noting that the only thing on the agenda in the public session is adjournment following executive session. And I'll go, how much time? 20 minutes or so.
Okay, so we'll come back at 11:55, give us a little bit of time to transition and get the phone in here, call Councilmember Herrera. So we anticipate coming back into open session at 11:55 PM, and council does not anticipate making any decisions thereafter. So we'll be in recess until 11:55.
Thank you. There she is.
And in 3, 2, 1. The time is 11:58 AM, and the council is back from its executive session, and seeing no other business before the Pierce County Council in Monday study session, we are adjourned. Hey, Brian.